G'day, another Monday, another Hunting Mirages video log, and today I'm going to be talking about vocals, because as I keep threatening in previous video logs, about how I'm going to explain my plans for my big new project for this year, and I haven't done that yet, and I was thinking, I thought about doing it last week, and I didn't, and I thought about doing it this week, and I was reluctant, and I thought, why am I reluctant to talk about these plans that I'm really excited about? And I realized that the thing, because part of the plans is I've got a timeline that I want to have a certain to get a new album release out this year, and I realized that the thing that was stopping me from sort of presenting, planting my flag in the sand with that project is because I'm still not quite where I want to be in terms of my vocals. So I thought today I'll explain a bit about where I'm at with my vocals, and that will put the rest of the project into some context. So I've been let me rewind a bit, okay? And because I'm not sure if what you know about my history of being a vocalist. I was years and years ago, I sung in choirs and musicals, and I had garage bands and things, and I always wanted to be a singer, and part of it was being a singer, always was for me. But back in the day, my vocals were okay. I always had this really kind of nasal and strained kind of tone to the sound of my voice, and I never knew how to get around that. And also I've always really been into heavy music, and I had no no ability to do any kind of heavy rock singing, let alone metal. Whenever I tried, my tone, I just sounded even more strained, and it hurt, and all of those things that are not supposed to happen when you're trying to, when you're actually doing heavy vocals. And so, skip forward to 5 years ago, I decided to get really serious about doing something about that, and I bought Ken Tamplin Vocal Academy. I bought his his top package of all of his video content, the sort of self-serve vocal course that he does, and I spent 2 years doing that really hardcore, and I got a lot better as a vocalist, but I never really properly got rid of that strained tone. There were still issues when I recorded it. When singing other people's songs, I could sort of successfully approximate their tone. But when I sung my own stuff and I sung more naturally, there was this strained sound to it that just wasn't pleasing to the ear. And anyway, I pushed on, and because I always figure, as long as I keep trying, I'll eventually get there. And so a year ago, I decided that actually my partner decided for me, because I was procrastinating a lot. So thanks, BD Dubs. Decided to start doing some fry screaming lessons, because heavy vocalization's always been part of it, and I still didn't really have much of a clue on how to get there. And so I started having actual one-to-one coaching with Rocky, formerly of Rocky Music Studio, and she has a bit of a reputation for being able to teach fry vocals. That's what she promotes. But she's now Phoenix Coaching at rockycoach.com. Anyway, I've had Rocky as a one-on-one vocal coach since the beginning of 2019, and that has been going spectacularly well. It's strange, actually, that now that I'm 13 months in having lessons with her, in trying to unlock and learn how to use the fry, vocal fry, which is, the metal screaming that most people think of, when they think of metal, actually requires like total relaxation. And in learning this, it's actually unlocked. It's, finally directly addressing that strained tone problem that I've always had, which is really exciting. And so part of the reason why I got all excited about doing an album project this year is because by about November last year, I was like, wow, like the end is in sight. This is really exciting. I'm getting, metal screams, and my regular singing is heaps better. My range is extended even further, and, it's all coming together. So, all right, let's do it. But in, probably the beginning of December last year, I thought that, that how to metal scream would just be a solved problem by, say, January this year. But it's still, every step of the way, as I've found over the last, December, January, the last couple of weeks, that, every single step is still, hard-fought battle, and I haven't quite got there yet in terms of having that metal scream that I can just pull out of the bag whenever I want it, because when I started at the beginning of last year, I couldn't fry at all, and like if I tried to do a fry, it would just be, I've even got old videos of this that I could show you, but it would just be like it was like that, and that's no metal scream. And everyone, it's funny, if you look up metal fry screaming tutorial videos online, you'll find a whole lot of people who will tell you that, in order to fry scream, you practice the it's just it's that little bit of fry, and then just keep doing it and practicing it and get louder and louder. And that is like a gross simplification of what, it's true, but there's so much learning that has to go on in order to get that fry, get it be reliable, and get it to be loud. It's kind of like saying that in order to drive, all you need to do is sit in the driver's seat of a car, turn the key, put it in drive, and put your foot on the gas. It's true, but if you do that, you're not going to have a good time if you don't already know how to drive. So, and it's very similar with learning metal screaming, fry screaming, that, for me, to relate it back to the whole strained tone story, is that in order to actually metal scream, you have to learn to move your vocal placement from down here to up, sort of behind the sinuses, and in order to do that, you have the placement up here in the sinuses specifically so that you can actually completely relax everything down here and around the root of your tongue and in the throat, because if you don't do that, you won't reliably get the fry sound. And so, I've spent a full year retraining the muscles in my throat so that when I go to increase the volume of something, that there's no tightening of any muscles around here, which has been, my natural inclination for, 40 years. And is that, when I go to push. And so the problem is, now, as I'm learning, I get it sometimes, and then I lose it because that old muscle memory of tensing up around here just wants to come back all the time. It's constantly, trying to sort of reassert itself, and I'm constantly sort of battling, saying, no, stay relaxed. And, we're tensing muscles up in here now in order to sing, or in order to vocalize with the metal screams. And yet, 50% of the time now, when I go for that yeah, and I go for that fry, instead my body will just automatically tense the wrong muscles in the throat, and I'll go yeah, like this sort of thing, which is completely wrong. And sometimes, like, the more I try to force it back to the other one, all it does is increase that tension that needs to be released, and it's this weird. Then it becomes a whole performance pressure thing where I get all up in my head about it. And whilst all of that's going on, I don't feel that it's a good time to actually start writing the music for the project. And the main reason for that is because my process with writing music is that the music needs to be able to happen easily in the moment. And I've got that set up for so much of my other equipment and my keyboards and everything. In the moment, I can lay down beats, and I can play like cool bass lines, and I can play strings, and it's all set up so that everything's at my fingertips. And in the moment, I can just go for a sound, and it's there, and I can use it to sketch. And this way, I can write a song in, like 15 minutes to half an hour. And, and that key is just to keep up that velocity, that you never stop and start to question, what should I do next? As soon as you start that, it's over. So staying in that flow of just constantly slapping down ideas is how I create. And the problem comes when I go to lay down a vocal, if I just need to be able to grab the mic, pull it over, and just go. And if more often than not I choke instead of actually doing the fry scream sound that I want, it takes me out of that flow. And so and that will make writing really hard, and then I'll get back into my bad old habits of planning and trying to get the perfect take, and sort of overthinking the whole thing. I find that it's much more successful for me if I can just sketch and brainstorm just on the fly, keep the flow going. And so not having that with the metal vocals doesn't fill me with confidence that the writing period is going to go well for the album. So that's why I'm not keen to actually plant my flag yet about what the timeline is going to be, because I need to get to the end of this little period of, and I'm so close, like I'm very close. My goal, I know I will have arrived, and you will know I have arrived when I post a cover video of this Motionless in White song 570, because that's one of my goal songs at the moment, and I'm learning that, and it's getting better and better, and I'm constantly recording karaoke versions of 570 on a project so I can compare my progress, and eventually when that gets up to being a solid, respectable vocal cover of that track, then I'm going to post that as a cover video. That's when I'll be able to get going with that template. With the metal project, because I'll have all of the pieces in place on my template in order to write the album that I want to write. And so that's where things are at the moment. Looking forward to getting there. It's the whole vocal coaching thing has been going spectacularly well. If you are an aspiring metal vocalist, all I can say is that, if you don't already have some fry, then it takes time. It's taken me, I did 7 months. I do my vocal sessions with Rocky fortnightly, and so I did 7 months of fortnights. I had 5 months last year where I wasn't having lessons, partly just because I needed to save a bit of money, and also I was just being a bit slack for part of it. But I wasn't slack in keeping up the vocal practice. I kept up my vocal practice throughout last year, specifically focusing on the metal screams. And I'm 85% of the way there. I can regularly do awesome vocals, awesome metal screams and things. It's just not on command. Every time I do about say 3 to 4 vocal practice sessions a week, and every other vocal session. Like I have to do the vocal like about half an hour of warm-ups and exercises before I really get the fry going, and then it'll be going really awesome and it sounds great, and then towards the end of that session I'll kind of fall off because I get tense and what have you. But it's like every time I do a practice session I'll have some period of time where it's working really well, but I don't know exactly when that's going to come in the session. I don't know how long it's going to be that I can sustain it before I start to, because once I've got it going, I'll start pushing it and trying new things, and then might wander off into muscular territory that's not quite right. And so that's how the sessions often end. But whilst that is the current state of my progress, and whilst it's there, it's not quite reliable enough to embark on a project that's using it as a solid skill. And that's where I'm up to. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. I'll see you on Thursday for my next demo that's going to come out. So cheers.